Melissa, how are we doing?
Hi, Mark. All good. You guys are welcome to start your videos. And
okay, good. I think we're ready to start. Melissa. Okay, we're going to fire away. Welcome everybody to this panel discussion. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our hostess. I will not introduce the topic or the other guests. All I'm going to do is introduce and welcome Patricia Zurita, who is the Chief Executive of BirdLife International, and she has been in that position for 5 years. Patricia is a wonderful lady, a committed conservationist, and a great friend of BirdLife South Africa, and in fact of all the BirdLife partners around the world. She used to be the Executive Director of the Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund. She's worked for Conservation International. She has a degree in economics from Duke University and much, much more. When we mentioned to Patricia that we were going to be holding a virtual African bird fair, she immediately said she'd love to be involved, and she offered to do various things, including host this panel discussion, which we're looking immensely forward to. Thank you very much, Patricia, and to your guests, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Mark, for having me, and it is a pleasure to be with all of you.
You're still muted.
I should not. I'm not.
You're not. You can go for it.
Okay. Sorry. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Mark, for having me and for giving us the opportunity of talking. I can hear you.
Yep. Yeah, you're coming through fine, Patricia. Thanks, Mark. I think the technical issues on your side.
Can we
carry on, Patricia? Mark? Please go for it.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Again, technical issues here.
I can't hear Patricia. Can anybody else hear her?
Yes, here.
Everybody can hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So when I heard about the African Bird Fair, I thought that it would be really important to talk about the current situation that we're living in, the impact of the pandemic in events like the bird fair that has pushed us into a virtual bird fair, and also talk about a little bit about the impact on tourism. I am delighted to be hosting this panel. I will introduce Tim and Adam. Both of you, thank you so much for making the time on a Saturday. I know that you both are very busy, but we love having you both. And what I'm going to do is just introduce the topic a little bit with a short presentation. And then after that, we will talk a little bit more about Tim and Adam will introduce the topic from their perspectives, from the specific perspectives, and then we'll have an open discussion. And I invite all of you who are in the audience to join us and place your questions on the YouTube event. We're really happy to have you participating, and we will try to answer as many questions as we can throughout the discussion. So let me start with my presentation very quickly, and I will properly introduce my guests in a minute. So, sorry, let's do this. How am I doing this? Okay. You should be able to see the slides in a minute. So what we're trying to look into is the future of tourism and events after COVID, and how can we bounce forward from this catastrophic event that we're living right now. But allow me first to introduce BirdLife. I don't know how many of you know of BirdLife International. We are a family of over 100 organizations around the world. We're truly the largest partnership for nature. The map that you see on the right, the blue countries are the countries that have BirdLife partners. BirdLife South Africa, led by Mark with his exceptional team, is the BirdLife partner in South Africa. We are truly the power of many. And we work together as a family, making sure that we are protecting birds, but birds as a conduit and as ambassador for nature. We connect the world. We really believe that unless we actually work together, we're not going to be able to tackle the biodiversity or climate change crisis. And we know that science has to be the foundation of that. And we are the global authority for birds. So we are truly global. We're in more than 115 countries. These are all the local conservation organizations that work and are part of the BirdLife family. Each of them and local national conservation organization in their own right, but all of them coming together as part of the umbrella and the family of BirdLife International, approving our common strategy together and working together for the future of birds and nature. Now, all of you who are probably attending the bird fair love birds. We know that they are incredible and exceptional ambassadors to save nature and life. They are truly the perfect conduit to understand and the perfect indicator to understand what's happening with the rest of the planet. Now, we are living incredible trialing times. The COVID pandemic hit us earlier this year and some in China late last year, and has completely put the whole planet to a halt. It is by far the worst catastrophe after the World War II. I just was digging into the numbers, and I was shocked to see that almost every single country of the planet has had deaths because of COVID. We are already, as of yesterday, with 865,000 deaths and over 26 million cases reported by the World Health Organization yesterday. And I actually I'm not sure if the lighter blues of Africa are because of the lack of reporting and testing rather than the impact of the pandemic. But by far, Africa is in much better shape. If these numbers are right, much better shape than my home continent of South America or the US or big chunks of Europe and Asia. So the problem is not only that people are getting sick and are sick and unfortunately we have had almost 1 million deaths, but this has actually created a huge impact on the economy. 305 million jobs are at risk because of the COVID pandemic, as reported by the International Labour Organization back in May. 14 million jobs were lost in the US by the end of May. 836,000 jobs in Australia, 600,000 jobs in the UK. I don't have the numbers for South Africa, but I know that this has impacted every single country of the world. Now, the problem is also that it looks like 42% of the job losses may be permanent, according to Forbes. And 1.6 billion workers that are part of the informal economy are at risk of leaving or losing their livelihoods. The projected deficits of the impact of the COVID pandemic can reach 30 trillion US dollars, as reported by McKinsey in June. And it is projected that the global economy will shrink by 5.5%, with the US contracting by 7.3%, and the economies of the 19 countries of the euro currency decreasing by 8.6%. I had the fortune of being this morning at the opening ceremony with the Minister of Tourism, and she was saying that while tourism is I'm looking at my notes right now, 2.1% of the GDP in South Africa, and the impact of the loss of tourism is impacting the economy in South Africa. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We understand from the report of the World Bank in the spring that this pandemic will push about 60 million people into extreme poverty, and it is by far the worst peacetime recession in the last 100 years, according to the OECD. Now, I wanted to focus on two key areas, the events and the impact on the event industry and the impact on the tourism industry. And that's why we have these fantastic guests with me. But just as a quick introduction, because I know that they're going to be talking about this, the OECD made a revision of their estimates on tourism, on the impact on tourism, pointing to a 60% decline in international tourism by 2020. And this could potentially rise to 80% if the recovery is delayed until December. There are scenarios that they are revising that imply shocks and reductions that could amount to 60 to 80% decline in the international tourism economy this year. And while in the near term, the expectation is that the domestic tourism will offer a chance to drive the recovery, it heavily depends on how each of the countries are actually going to be opening up. Domestic tourism economy in OECD countries is about 75% of the total tourism economy. But the problem is what happens with the non-OECD countries where national tourism is not as strong as it is on OECD countries. Now, thinking about events, there was a research study published in April that found that 72% of all the events had been canceled or postponed this year, with some of them being rescheduled for the end of the autumn or fall this year in the north. But more than 550 event planners had responded to this study, and the results showed that 50% of them are moving their events online. And it's great that we're getting together today at the Bird Fair virtually. 20%, however, are not moving their events online, and they are having incredible difficulties in replicating events to virtual models, and that is a huge concern. And those making the move to virtual, only 24% are moving the entire in-person event experience online. So it's only about a quarter of all of them that are truly being able to replicate the in-person events when we're moving into the virtual experience. So we understand and we know that it's very clear that we need to reignite the economy and restore purchasing power and create new jobs and prioritize the least well-off as part of the recovery of this pandemic. But we truly believe at BirdLife that there are ways of making that happen in a way that we can simultaneously tackle both the climate change and the biodiversity loss crisis. And tourism and events are incredibly important. And the reason why we wanted to talk about this today is because we're seeing a huge impact on the lack of income or the reduction of income because of the lack of tourism in key countries where conservation depends on the generation of funding from tourism. And I just listed a couple of examples. These are by no stretch of imagination comprehensive, but for example, in Cambodia, there were 3 critically endangered giant ibis killed for meat in earlier this year, following the collapse of the local tourism industry in Cambodia. In Central Africa, we saw measures to shield mountain gorillas, and then because of the reduction of vital visitor revenue, lack of enforcement and patrolling, and then 12 rangers who guarded Virunga being killed in the DRC this was last May, I think. Deforestations and fires in the Amazon are expanding and going completely out of control because there's no enforcement and control. And we're seeing illegal fishing fleets that are taking advantage of the lack of enforcement. Just in my own country, at the border of the Galapagos Marine Reserve, they found a massive, the BBC actually reported a massive fishing fleet that is finning sharks in just at the edge of the marine reserve. Over 100 Chinese boats at the edge of the Galapagos Marine Reserve, one of the most special places for marine biodiversity, being completely destroyed by this massive fleet of Chinese vessels that are not being able to, we're not being able to control because funding from the government is actually going into COVID recovery and COVID management. So we wanted to bring up this topic because we know how events allow us to raise awareness, ensure that get people interested in conservation and raise funding for conservation. We have seen it in the past. We have seen it, and I know for fact that Tim will be talking about that. Nature tourism allows people to learn about biodiversity, to love it and support it, and it generates incredible support for conservation. And conservation financing, as I said before, has been highly dependent on ecotourism activities and on the financial flows that we get from events. So I wanted to introduce my spectacular panel here. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to do that. Tim Appleton, the head of global birding, is the founder of the global bird, the UK British Bird Fair, founded over 31 years ago. An extraordinary conservationist who started from working with Sir Peter Scott, and was so visionary not only to create the Ratland Reserve and reintroduce the osprey to the UK, but also create an extraordinary event that, although you're not involved with anymore, it has become an absolutely legendary event for the birding community, and one that has set up seedlings throughout the world. And I know that you're going to be talking about global birding and also the global birding weekend that we are going to have in October. So Tim is going to talk a little bit about events and the future of events in light of pandemics. And I'm also delighted to have Adam Riley with us. Adam is the founder and creator of Rockjumper, the tourism company that has ensured that people continue to go birding and love birds, and also a chartered accountant by training, but one who decided to follow your passion for birds and nature and created Rockjumper and the companies that are associated to get people to see and experience firsthand all of these fantastic birds around the world. So we're going to have an enticing and wonderful conversation with the two of them in a minute. I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned 2 points before we get started on the conversation. So the first one is that our campaign. We know that the COVID pandemic has been the worst catastrophe since World War II, and we have launched the One Planet, One Right campaign. We truly believe that in order for us to control the pandemics in the future, we have to put nature at the heart of the solution and elevate it at the highest level possible. And we think that unless it is actually enshrined as a right in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, we will not be able to make it happen. So BirdLife has requested to the UN Secretary, the UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres, to include in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights the right to a healthy natural environment. So I invite all of you who are online participating in the Bird Fair to sign on the petition. We are on 87,000 signatures. We want to get to 100,000 by this month. It's a crucial month for the UN, and we will be having the UN General Council on Human Rights meeting in 2 weeks' time, and hopefully tabling the idea of including the right to a healthy environment as part of the declaration. So sign in on oneplanet1right.org. Help us reach out the 100,000. I know that the 10,000 people that have signed up for the Bird Fair today will help us with this. And the second thing that I wanted to mention, and I will mention it again at the end, is today is Vulture Awareness Day. And we couldn't have thought of a better time to have the Bird Fair because of the crisis that the vultures are living in Africa. We are hopefully being able to mobilize today and throughout the year and throughout the next couple of years, enough people to help us support the multi-headed crisis that vultures are living in Africa. Out of the 11 species of vultures that we have in Africa, 4 are in very critical state. We need to stop the illegal direct and indirect poisoning. We have to stop the trade of body parts, and we have to be incredibly careful about the infrastructure that we're setting in place for energy. So join us in our multimedia events. We're having already a bombarding online of over Twitter and Facebook of Vulture Day, but also join in the sessions that we have today at the Bird Fair and ensure that we can participate in this process. There's going to be a Facebook event hosted by the Ethiopian partner of BirdLife, EWNHS, and talking about the return of one of our vultures. So please join us, participate in the events, and support the BirdLife partners in Africa that are helping us tackle this crisis. So with that, let me go back to my fantastic panel. We have both Tim and Adam online, and I cannot thank you enough for making time on your Saturday to join me and be able to have this interesting and challenging conversation about how do we tackle the future with COVID on both the tourism and events industry. So let me stop sharing my screen, and then we can move on and start with you. Adam, can we get close to home first?
Great. Yeah, so Patricia, thank you very much for inviting me onto this panel. And it's great to be sharing this platform with Tim as well. For those who don't know me, I'm a fellow South African based out of Hilton in KZN. As Patricia mentioned, I'm the founder and owner of Rockjumper Birding Tours, and we do birding tours in more than 100 countries around the world. So this COVID pandemic has obviously had a substantial impact on our business. Our tours tailed off in March, and we've had zero revenue since March, as is the same with many other tourism companies throughout the world. Just to give you an idea of some of the impacts, there was research just published today that in the US, 100 publicly listed tourism companies have lost $137 billion of revenue in the last quarter compared to their earnings in the previous quarter. So that's just 100 travel-related companies. And a lot of the money that's lost in tourism is not money that's ever going to be recovered because of lost capacity. You know, once a hotel doesn't have someone stay for the night, they can never recover that money again. Or once a tour leader is sitting at home rather than guiding, he's never going to recover that day. So a lot of this money is permanently lost. And yeah, so this obviously has been very tough and disproportionately so on lower income earners in tourism. In certain respects, there has been government assistance with tours payments and so on, but for many people such as local guides, etc., they aren't actually formally employed, and it's impossible for them to receive government assistance to help them through this period. So it's going to have a major effect on people involved in the tourism industry, as well as communities that are involved in the tourism industry. A lot of them rely on this tourism income, and you know there's been discussion over many years that communities shouldn't entirely rely on tourism, but unfortunately, it's in many cases it's their only form of sustainable and easy income. And those communities are being severely impacted by the lack of tourists coming to their countries. But you know, I think there's also positives that we need to take out of this situation. You know, there's been all this talk about over tourism, and that tourism shouldn't be measured in number of people coming and the volumes. And this is a time to possibly reflect on tourism, which is a major producer of greenhouse gases and has resulted in a lot of development that hasn't been ecologically wise or healthy. And this is a good time to reflect on that and to relook at tourism supporting the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, rather than work against it. So we've seen sort of a lot of airlines are actually phasing out some of their more inefficient airplanes. And even in China, there's research has come out now that there's a lot more awareness of the environment and a lot more demand for environmentally healthy products, as well as more interaction in the environment. And I've certainly seen locally that there's a huge amount of interest in birding and tourism and outdoor activities. And we really need to keep this local interest going A lot of our companies involved in tourism sort of focus on the dollar income from foreigners, yet there's so many people in this country that are super keen to actually have the expertise that we have in being able to introduce people to nature and allow them to, or not allow them, but let them share in our passion and join in and appreciate the nature that's around us. Great. We'll start off with that.
Good. Well, can I come in there? Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Patricia. And obviously, thank you to the South African Bird Fair. It's a huge honor to be invited. I'm a sort of mere warden of a nature reserve back in the UK that just happened to have a few good ideas. So to be involved on an international panel is a huge honor, and I'm absolutely delighted and hope I can make some sort of contribution to help our session get going. And I'd like to take up the sort of positive side that Adam's just introduced. And we've seen in the UK, and I believe further afield around the world, and you mentioned it to a certain extent, Adam, this new awareness, this new sort of passion for people that have been locked down, many of people sitting in their flats and unable to even access the local park or the local forest or woodlands or wetlands. And so I believe that we should be at a new crossroads here in enhancing these new people to go forward as lockdowns and hopefully the pandemic disappears through vaccines, and we can start enjoying nature to its full. And to a certain extent, one of the reasons why I started a new project, Global Birding, which has only literally been alive for a month and yet seems to have gone almost viral around the world. And I started Bird Fair, and part of my whole feeling for conservation is bringing people together, and that's why the bird fairs in the past have been so successful, because over 70 countries have come across from different parts of the world. Over 25,000 people have integrated, have built up relationships, built up new friends, met old friends, and this has gone a way to sort of hopefully bring further passion into those countries. And this is what I hope in this very difficult times, that our new global birding will go around the world, bring people together, not actually physically, but again, virtually. And one of the things we will be doing, and Patricia kindly mentioned it at the beginning, was this Global Bird Weekend on the 17th, 18th of October. Now, it's going to be a fun weekend. I think this is what we've got to try to get the newcomers particularly aware that, bird watching, wildlife watching, is really good fun. It's healthy, it gets you into the countryside, bring the kids out, have a really, really good time. And so we're going to do silly things like set world records, we hope, but it's very much people participating. And of course, when you participate with lots of people, we have this opportunity to make people more aware of the environment through different media, and we're using social media an awful lot, but we're also wanting to help conservation. And I've worked with BirdLife International now for 30 years, I guess, and helped raise literally millions and millions of pounds through the bird fair. And so we've decided to continue with that relationship, and we'll be bringing people together to hopefully raise money to stop the illegal bird trade, which of course has its connections with COVID. And so, although there's still a lot of research to be done, we know very well that there has been this, and has been for years, a massive movement of illegal wildlife trade throughout the world, particularly going into the Far East for crazy things like some of the crazy medicines that they believe have a good impact on people. And so that's one of the reasons why we've done this. And I passionately believe that things like tourism is absolutely critical for the future. I think something like 8% of all carbon emissions are from tourism full, but it's a minute percentage of people who travel for ecotourism that actually create a carbon problem. But if you look at the impact that these people have that travel on the local economies, and this again, Adam's just mentioned this, you know, the impact it's had on guides, the impact it's had on local economies. I mean, here in my little county of Rutland in the heart of England, our local community has lost out probably £1 million on people not coming to the bird fair here in the UK. So that's just one example of one small area of Britain that one event has had a major impact. I could go on.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. No, this has been extraordinary introduction from the two of you. Thank you so much for taking the time. But so we're hearing two different sides of the picture, right? I mean, Tim, with your experience with the bird fair, you saw people coming from all over the world, really. I mean, not only the exhibitors, but the sponsors, and even the people who were actually coming and seeing the bird fair. I mean, we had BirdLife partners coming from almost every single continent coming and joining us. And then there was that big question about the impact on climate change, the generation of greenhouse gases because of the travel industry. You were saying it's just a minute part of it. And Adam, you mentioned before how this has actually enticed the airline community and the airline industry to start thinking about much more climate smart airplanes, much more reduced emissions from flying. I truly believe that there's a big element of people visiting other countries and understanding the realities of other countries and viewing and experiencing firsthand that beauty and the challenges that nature is actually facing in those other countries that helps us keep people motivated to push for conservation and to support conservation. Do we think that virtual can actually replace that?
Personally, I don't think no, it can't. Obviously, it can't have the same impact whatsoever because, you know, I think we all need to meet each other. We need to talk to each other physically, and virtually is really, really difficult. Now, I mean, you can still do some great events. Swarovski have been doing these great global tours around bringing people together. They had 5,000 people yesterday at the Central American event, and that was really successful. 5,000 people live watching and enthusiasing through the likes of Chris Wood and Diego Calderon. I mean, it was an incredible event, amazing. And this is the way forward at the moment. We're probably going to have to go. And I think to actually bring people together globally is going to take a lot of time. What I am hoping will happen, more and more countries will look at their own local tourism and develop more rather than necessarily in the next year or two, bringing people across the planet. So I know South Africa is very much looking at home tourism, and many other countries, Thailand, and here even in the UK, some of the tour operators here are really homing in on local weekend events, taking people out into the field. I actually did a 3 days for one of our countries here, and we had an amazing response from a number of people that wanted to actually get out and see stuff. So, you know, if we're having to almost go back to basics again and then start the whole experience, and I think eventually, you know, things will change, and people that are probably new to the game will be new customers, the likes of Adam and the other companies around, travel companies, ecotourism companies around the world. So it's a really, really difficult question. You know, the last thing we want is not to get people engaged. And I'm convinced that virtual bird fairs have a role, but they are a stopgap, very much a stopgap until we can reopen our borders again.
Yeah, without a doubt, Tim. I completely agree. You know, virtual has a role to play, but it's just not the same as being there and hearing the bird songs and walking on those trails and smelling the earth and feeling the sunlight on you. And you know, that example of the giant ibis being eaten because those people are not generating revenue from tourists coming to see the birds is a classic example of what can and will happen out there. if many of these protected environments don't start receiving visitors to support the communities around the reserves.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Adam, I've seen one or two Facebook postings recently of more poaching going on for bushmeat in Africa. Over here in the UK, there's been a lot, because there's been so many people out, not into the countryside. There's been a lot more poaching, particularly raptors have been killed and other species. So, and Patricia, you've made note or discussed the problems with the illegal fishing, and so many things going on around the world that literally we're having to sort of step back almost to prehistoric times when we went out hunting with them. Anyway, so yeah, I just hope that the future is good. I think it will be, but it's going to take some time. And I feel so sorry for a lot of these guides who literally have no income whatsoever. And I know a lot of companies, fortunately, have actually been supporting and doing things for their local guides, which I think is actually critical. And if these guys aren't taking people out birding, then where is their income coming from? None. So what do? They go into the bush. They get some bush meat, or they decide to cut some forest down. It's so basic, and yet it's so critical for their lives that we need to support them. And in the meantime, we may have to do a lot more to help these people around the world who are ace people. They are the backbone of their country. And I'm hoping that through our global bird weekend, it will give a lot of exposure for some of these smaller companies, who can get their guides into the field, bring in lots of data through eBird, and that data will then be available for people to see in the future. Say, wow, this particular lodge in Peru or South Africa or wherever it might be, it has, wow, this sort of number of birds. We didn't realize that. So, we're trying to build and build and build for the future through this new global birding website of mine.
So there's no question, and I think that is one of the definitely positives, Tim, as you mentioned, is the fact that we can reach out through events like this one, for example, that traditionally would be welcoming people from South Africa and Africans in general, going way beyond. I remember this morning, Professor Anusha was the honorary president of BirdLife South Africa, was saying the advantage of bringing the bird fair virtually is that we are going way beyond Africa and getting all of these other people from all the continents attending and learning and being able to participate. But and I think that's definitely a positive. I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit more about how you see the future of this. Are we going to go back to business as usual? Are we going to go back to visiting and having all of this number of tours going and birding all over the world? Is it going to be a mix of virtual and tours? How do you see it coming in the next, 2-5 years from now, provided that we can actually find a vaccine?
Yeah. So what the research is showing, and the smartest brains out there are predicting, is going to be at least 3 years before we see the same amount of travel and tourism spend as what happened in 2019. So we're looking at quite a long recovery in this industry, and that gives us a lot of time to reflect. I mean, one of the issues is that when travel does come back, whether we need to wait for a vaccine, which is probably likely, certainly for cruise industry and so on, to kickstart, there needs to be a vaccine. But is that, for instance, they expect flight prices to be significantly higher than they were up until a few months ago. So in the last 20 years, average flight prices have gone down 60%, and there's been an oversupply of airlines and airplanes out there, and this is not going to be the same going forward. And also, business travel will definitely be disrupted to a far more significant degree than just leisure travel. and a lot of the sort of business class seats and first class are paid for by businesses, and that subsidizes the economy class fares. And there's going to be a lot less of that. Yeah, so yeah, there's definitely going to be medium to long-term effects before tourism restarts. And again, going back to regional and local tourism, I think there's going to be a huge growth in that aspect, and it gives us as ambassadors to nature a wonderful opportunity to imbibe more of our community into what we do and teach them about birding and what an amazing, life-changing activity it is.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that, Adam. And I think, you know, the future for the next 2 or 3 years will be a form of virtual bird fair, but there's no reason within countries why there can't be more bird fairs, real bird fairs where people can get together. You may not get the international guests because the borders will be closed. And as you say, travel is going to become a lot more expensive. So that will mean another way of people having to investigate how they do their businesses in the future and how they promote it. But I still passionately believe there's a lot of scope for, you know, within in-country events such as a bird fair, a bird festival, and I'm sure that's a route that we can only go down at this stage. And you know, it will bring people together, and I'm sure as we go forward, the number of people that will be engaging from within countries is going to grow and grow. And this newfound love of nature is something that we all need to encompass and take forward. And I think it's a great opportunity for BirdLife and all their partners around the world as well to grow their membership and to have a really strong feel for people. People really are becoming much more concerned. You know, they've had time, they've been sitting around, they've read books, they've watched television, you know, they've seen videos, you know, they've seen some of the disasters, and, you know, people really want to do something about it. And I think one of the tests for me will be how many people do donate towards our project to stop the illegal bird trade in October. I think that'll be a really significant way forward for and signal for us to sort of see, right, yeah, people really care. And I know that people in South Africa care about their environment, people care, and we need to sort of really, as I say, encompass that. And it's been a great opportunity for me to sort of meet you all today and sort of, you know, express my passion as well, which never dies, never changes.
No, and Tim, it's lovely to have you with us. So, I mean, and this was one of the key questions that we had. It was that firsthand the impact that the bird fair has had on bird conservation. I mean, thanks to the incredible support that we had from your team, we were able to raise over £5 million over 30 years for international conservation birds in the places that matter the most. And we were able to leverage that funding almost tenfold with additional donors. But that funding was absolutely seminal for conservation. Do you think that we can actually replace that with virtual events? And while I totally understand that we may be able to scope it more to generate and create more members, is it actually going to help us continuing to finance conservation through that route?
Big question, and I don't think anyone can really predict that. Again, I mean, Patricia, we will have some indication, I think, in October as to, you know, what people really feel. We have made the event very much voluntary. So, I mean, it's purely, you know, there's no charge to join in. We hope 20, 30, 40,000 people may be birdwatching over that weekend through working with October Big Day with eBird. So, you know, if we can get those people really engaged and have a feel for what we're doing, then I would think, yes, we will replace it. Probably it will take time. I mean, you know, there's nothing better than seeing a physical person saying, come on, I need your £15 to come into our bird fair. And they say, okay, that's fine. And when people realize that, you know, their money they're donating is going specifically to a project, to a conservation issue, then, you know, rather than lining up the pockets of a big office and lots of staff. We've got I think an opportunity here really to show people that their money will make a difference.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, in the economy, money hasn't disappeared. It's just basically stopped moving, certainly in the way it's traditionally moved. So there is still money in the economy, and hopefully a lot of it will find its way or more of it will find its way to conservation than it did in the past.
I think we've just got to be clever how we sort of find that route and be initiative and be progressive and really sort of look at I'm just trying to think of the right word really. It's sort of drawing on people's well, yeah, I'll shut up for a second because I know it will happen, and I know that we will be able to engage with people. I mean, what do the audience say? Have you opened it up to people now to sort of say how they feel about
Cool. Can you WhatsApp me the link?
Yes.
Okay. So in that case, I think we should all put our videos off. So stop video. So then they can't see us picking our noses while we wait.
So Andrew, I assume that's a link that I got up when my YouTube opened.
Yeah, that should be the one. And we'll double check.
Can I email it? Sorry, Duncan.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, I suppose you'd be much happier now chasing flaptails.
Absolutely. Andrew, do you want WhatsApp or email?
WhatsApp it to me if you can.
Okay, I'm going to email it to myself and then I'll WhatsApp it to you.
Okay.
And the thing is, it just goes directly to the bird fair. I'm a bit nervous here.
Here's the link, Annalie.
Can I have it to you in a second? But at the moment I clicked on that link, it went directly to Patricia's talk.
What do you mean it went to Patricia's talk, Annalie?
Okay, I'm sending you that link now. Just the top part, just ignore the whole email address under. When it went onto, when I clicked live stream on my side, it opened Patricia's talk.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So live stream on the platform is showing everything that's live right now. So we're not actually live yet because I haven't.
Okay. So you should have the link now, Andrew.
Yeah, I do. I'm going to pop it on. Yeah. And he'll let me know when it's linked.
Okay.
And we should see it come up on the you'll have to refresh it on the presentation, but I mean on the app. You'll have to refresh the app to see it, but I'll let you know when we go live, and then we can all mute ourselves so we're not talking to actual people.
Okay, it's saying I'm live streaming, so yeah.
Okay, perfect.
We were going to get technical support. I don't know what happened to Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle hasn't joined this. I don't think. I can't see the participants right now. No, it's just 3 of us. That's
No,
okay.
it's just 3 of us. Yeah.
I've just sent Kyle the link. So
okay.
Maybe he jumped out the window.
Duncan. Well, I look forward to your presentation, Duncan.
Yeah, thanks. I thought it was ready, but I've spent all morning completely redoing it.
No.
You know what it's like when you kind of thought you're ready, and then you go through it and you start changing this page and the next page, and before you know it, you've changed your entire presentation. But anyway, I've enjoyed putting it together, and I think it's more relevant now than the talks that I gave to all the local Cape bird clubs. You know.
No, it will be great. I'm sure that a couple of people, including yourself, will sleep well tonight. Yeah.
It's always a bit nerve-wracking, but you know, I think also the garden bird topic is a pretty good one, because it brings the whole bird topic back to something more enjoyable, maybe, because...
Can I stop you guys there, because I'm told we are linked live.
Oh, okay. I'm going to mute.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to mute, and I'll chat to you at the o'clock.
Okay.
All right.
So I should share video again, or what should I be doing? Start video.
Okay, I think there's a little bit of a technical issue. I'm seeing the COVID discussions in our window, which should be our Skype. I also see that Duncan's video and microphone are still on. Hanneline?
Yes.
Can you, where did you pull that link from? Was that the one that was generated when you linked to YouTube?
Yes.
Why were you clicking on the live stream on the app?
I was clicking on the live stream of Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have to click on BirdLife South Africa, which I did. And then that link came up, but it went straight to Patricia's talk.
I wonder how that can be. Because you started this meeting, right? Not Melissa.
No, I started this meeting.
Yeah. So how did you generate exactly the same link as Melissa? That's odd. I've got Kyle on it. He's read my messages. Still have 5 minutes.
Oof. Yeah, what I can see here is BirdLife South Africa 456 subscribers. BirdLife South Africa add a public comment.
I've asked Kyle to jump onto our Zoom and help us out. I don't see him here yet, though. Is he in the waiting room, maybe?
Let me double check.
Okay.
No. Yeah, there he is.
Okay. If you let him in, he should be able to help us find the right link.
Okay, here we go. Kyle. So it's generated the same link as the one that Melissa is using. Hi, Kyle. 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 Kyle.
I'm WhatsApping him as well. So he's muted himself now. Kyle, can you hear us?
Kyle. Kyle, can you hear us?
Hello? Nope. Okay, I'll put out a...
Oh, he says his mic's not working.
Is he talking to you in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. It's all right, no stress.
Andrew, you're good at this.
I mean, when it does link, it's going to pull up my screen, which is a holding screen, and we might just be talking amongst ourselves, but that's fine.
Okay. Kyle? Yeah, you're very faint, but we can hear you.
Really sorry.
Okay, so the issue is you can only have one stream per YouTube account.
Oh, it just...
Okay.
So I believe
So we'll only be able to go live once Melissa has
Kyle?
her meeting.
Kyle?
yeah.
Okay, we've got a problem, and it seems like we've got the exact same YouTube link as what Melissa has generated.
So Hanneline, I heard Carl there. I think, and Carl can type in the chat and let me know if I've got this right. I think we can only have one stream at a time from the BirdLife account. So we have to wait for Melissa to stop her stream so that we can start a new one, basically. So we have to wait for her to finish her meeting, and then we can stream to YouTube.
Stream it to the participate.
Is she going to stop at 3 o'clock?
Kyle wants to stream it to the participate YouTube. I can just about hear you, Kyle. How do we do that?
How do we do that, Carl?
Carl was added as a manager.
Hanneline was added as a manager. Did you get an email about that, Hanneline?
No.
Okay, you might have to check your junk file. So there should be an email from Participate adding you as a manager for their YouTube account.
So everything we did last night was through Melissa's phone.
Yeah, so this, we're going to have to switch to Participate's YouTube.
I've got nothing from Participate YouTube in my junk email.
Kyle, would it help if we made you the host?
Yeah, Kyle, could you take?
Yeah, we can try, but I'm not sure if I need a paid account for it to work.
Okay, try that, Hanley.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to let everyone know in the chat that we're going to be a little bit late. That's okay.
Carl is the host now.
Vultures, it is Vulture Awareness Day. We really want to protect them and save them from extinction.
Thanks, Patricia. Just a last comment from me quickly. Tim, we've modeled our bird fair, our original bird fair, the physical one, on what you did at Rutland Waters. So thank you very much for that. And Adam, we really appreciate your support. You're a very important donor of our organization and supporter in many ways. So thank you for that too. And we will make this discussion available on YouTube. I'm sure it's going to have many, many subsequent views as well. I've absolutely been fascinated. And in the chat box, I've just been saying I wish it had gone on for hours, because there's so much more that we could discuss. So thank you very much to the three of you, and Patricia, particularly to you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.